Uncover the stories behind these four incredible cars that time nearly forgot. These hidden gems combine stunning designs, remarkable innovations, and fascinating histories that will leave you wondering why they faded into obscurity. The Lancia Aurelia B24 is a classic Italian sports car from the 1950s that often gets overlooked, but it's a real gem. The story starts with the Lancia Aurelia B10 in 1950, which was groundbreaking because it had the first V6 engine ever put into production. The Aurelia series was all about innovation, luxury, and performance. The B24 model was the convertible and spider version of the Aurelia. Pininfarina, a famous Italian car designer, styled the B24 to appeal to American buyers who wanted stylish, high-performance sports cars after World War II. The B24 Spider America became an icon of Italian car design and engineering. The B24 came in two main styles, the Spider and the convertible. They only made 240 Spiders in 1954 and 1955, with 181 left-hand drive and 59 right-hand drive. The convertible came out in 1956, and they made 521 of them, all left-hand drive. And under the hood, the B24 Spider packed a 2.5-liter V6 with about 118 horsepower, good for a top speed around 115 miles per hour. It had a 4-speed manual transmission and rear-wheel drive. The Spider had a low, sleek body with a long hood and beautiful lines. It also had cool features like a panoramic windshield, removable side screens, and unique chrome bumpers. The convertible version that came later had some changes to make it more practical for daily driving. It got roll-up windows, a proper convertible top, and seats that were more comfortable. These changes made the convertible a bit heavier and less sporty, but easier to live with day to day. Lancia created the B24 to combine luxury, style, and performance in a way that would appeal to both European and American buyers. After the war, there was a big demand for sports cars that were both elegant and fast. Lancia wanted to tap into this market with a car that was not only gorgeous, but also technologically advanced. Pininfarina's design was a key part of the car's appeal. The smooth lines, low stance, and stylish details made the B24 stand out from the competition. Lancia also built the car to compete in famous events like the Mille Miglia endurance race in Italy, which made it even more desirable. So why has such a special car been somewhat forgotten? Well, the Lancia brand itself has faded from the spotlight. Lancia used to be known for innovative engineering and stylish design, but the brand has struggled in recent years. Its name isn't as well known today, so classic models like the B24 have been overshadowed by other brands. Another reason is that other classic cars have captured more attention. Brands like Ferrari, Porsche, and Jaguar have stayed more prominent and done a better job keeping their classic models in the spotlight. As a result, the B24 hasn't gotten the same level of recognition, despite its great qualities. Finally, the high cost of maintaining and restoring a B24 has made it less accessible to a wider audience. Because the car is so rare, and keeping it in top shape is so expensive, it's mainly owned by wealthy collectors. This has limited its exposure and contributed to its status as a forgotten treasure. The Nash Healey is a fascinating sports car from the early 1950s that you might not have heard of before. It was born from a unique partnership between Nash Kelvinator, an American car company, and Donald Healey, a British car designer. The story of how this collaboration came to be is quite interesting. It all started when George Mason, the president of Nash Kelvinator, met Donald Healey by chance on an ocean liner crossing the Atlantic in 1949. They connected over their shared love for photography and ended up discussing the idea of creating a new sports car together. Mason wanted to add some excitement to Nash's reputation, which was known for making practical but unexciting cars. Healey, on the other hand, was in need of a powerful engine for his vehicles. Initially, Healey wanted to use Cadillac's V8 engine, but General Motors turned down his request. That's when the collaboration with Nash became the perfect solution. They decided to use Nash's reliable 234.6 cubic inch 3.8-liter inline-6 engine, which was modified to improve its performance. The first Nash Healey prototype was unveiled in 1950, and the production version followed shortly after. The Nash Healey's design went through some changes over time. At first, it had an aluminum body designed by Healey himself. However, George Mason wanted a more refined look for the car. In 1952, they brought in the renowned Italian coach builder Pininfarina to give the Nash Healey a makeover. Pininfarina was famous for creating stunning bodies for luxury sports cars, and their redesign gave the Nash Healey a more sophisticated and modern appearance. The new look included a lower windshield, small tail fins, and a unique oval grille. Under the hood, the Nash Healey also received some upgrades. The engine size was increased to 252 cubic inches, 4.1 liter, and fitted with dual carburetors, which boosted its power output to 140 horsepower. Despite these improvements, the production process for the Nash Healey was quite complex and expensive. Parts were shipped from the United States to England for assembly, then sent to Italy for the bodywork, and finally returned to the US for sale. This intricate process resulted in a high price tag, with the car costing between $5,908 and $6,399. The Nash Healey wasn't just a good-looking car, it also proved its worth on the racetrack. It participated in several famous races, such as the 24 Hours of Le Mans and the Mille Miglia. In its debut at Le Mans in 1950, the Nash Healey prototype finished an impressive 4th overall, which was a remarkable feat for a newcomer. The car continued to perform well, securing a 3rd-place finish at Le Mans in 1952. These achievements were especially noteworthy considering the tough competition from more established racing teams. Interestingly, Nash didn't heavily promote the Nash Healey's racing successes. This was partly because the Le Mans race wasn't well known in the United States at the time. The company's main focus was on producing a sports car that would appeal to American buyers. Nevertheless, the car's racing achievements did help to boost its reputation among enthusiasts, and due to the Nash Healey's high production costs and limited appeal, only a small number of these cars were made. Over its 4-year production run from 1951 to 1954, just 506 units were produced. The complicated manufacturing process, which involved multiple countries, contributed to the car's high price and low production efficiency. In fact, each Nash Healey cost more to make than its selling price, causing Nash to lose money on every unit sold. The Nash Healey's price tag was significantly higher than many of its competitors, like the Jaguar XK120. This high cost limited its appeal to a niche market. Moreover, Nash's conservative dealer network wasn't well equipped to sell a high-performance sports car, which further hindered sales. As a result, the Nash Healey became a rare find. It was designed to appeal to enthusiasts who wanted a unique combination of American engineering and European style. Its racing success was also intended to showcase its performance capabilities and build a reputation among sports car fans. However, despite these intentions, the car's high price and niche appeal limited its success in the wider market. The Gilbern Invader. This car has a really interesting history, and it's a shame that it's not more well known today. So let's dive in and explore the story behind this rare and forgotten gem. First, let's talk about where the Gilbern Invader came from. It all started with a small car company in Wales called Gilbern Sports Cars. This company was started by a butcher named Giles Smith and a German engineer named Bernard Fries back in 1959. They began building cars in a shed behind Smith's butcher shop, and their first car was called the Gilbern GT. The GT was a small sports car that was sold mostly in kit form, which means that buyers had to put the car together themselves. Over time, Gilbern developed new models, including the Invader series. The Invader was meant to be an improvement over their earlier cars, with a better chassis and some changes to the body and interior. The first Invader came out in 1969, and the Mark II followed in 1970. These cars were available as complete cars or as kits, and they had some pretty fancy features for the time, like electric windows and wood dashboards. The Invader Mark III was the last car that Gilbern made before the company went bankrupt in 1973. It had some cool updates compared to the earlier Invaders, like a wider and lower body, a new grille, and a wider track. The Mark III also used a lot of parts from Ford, like the front suspension from the Cortina and the engine from the Capri. So, what was the Gilbern Invader Mark III like? Well, it was a two-door coupe with a 3.0-liter V6 engine from Ford. This engine made about 138 horsepower, which was enough to get the car up to a top speed of around 120 miles per hour. The car had a 4-speed manual transmission, and it was about 159 inches long and 65 inches wide. It was a pretty small car, but it was designed to be more luxurious than Gilbern's earlier models. It had features like electric windows, a wood dashboard, and adjustable shock absorbers. Despite these features, the Gilbern Invader Mk3 is a really rare car today. Only about 200 of them were ever made, which is a pretty small number. Part of the reason for this is that Gilbern was a small company and just didn't have the resources to make a lot of cars. They also had some financial problems throughout their history, and they were eventually forced to close down in 1973. Another reason why the Invader Mk3 is so rare is that it had a lot of competition at the time. There were a lot of other companies making sports cars in the 1970s like Jaguar, BMW, and Porsche. These companies were much bigger than Gilbern and had more money to spend on advertising and production. This made it tough for a small company like Gilbern to get noticed. The market for sports cars was also changing in the early 1970s. New safety and emissions rules were being introduced, especially in the United States, which made it harder for small companies to sell their cars. Gilbern's cars weren't designed to meet these new standards, which limited their potential market even more. Today, the Gilbern Invader Mk3 is a really interesting car for collectors and enthusiasts. It's rare and has a unique history, which makes it appealing to people who are into classic cars. However, it's not as well known or as valuable as some other classic sports cars, partly because Gilbern wasn't a very famous brand. The Wartburg 353 is a car with a fascinating backstory that reflects the political and economic climate of its time. Let's take a closer look at the history, details, and reasons behind its rarity and obscurity today. The story of the Wartburg 353 begins in 1966 when it started production as the successor to the Wartburg 311 and 312 models. The car gets its name from the famous Wartburg Castle in Eisenach, Germany, where it was manufactured. The 353 was a big step forward in design with a modern body and a unique 3-cylinder 2-stroke engine. This engine had a size of 992 cc and initially produced 45 horsepower, which was pretty impressive back then. Even though the technology was a bit old, the car's design aimed to give East German citizens a more modern and reliable vehicle. The Wartburg 353 also moved towards front-wheel drive, which was quite advanced for that time. Over the years, the Wartburg 353 went through several changes and improvements. In 1969, the 353-1 model came out with a better engine that made 50 horsepower, making the car perform even better. The design also changed to include round instruments and bucket seats for a more comfortable ride. In 1975, the Wartburg 353W brought important safety features like front disc brakes and a collapsible steering column, which were quite innovative for the time. These changes showed that the makers of the Wartburg were always trying to keep the car competitive and up to date with the latest car standards. During its production, over 1 million Wartburg 353s were made in several different versions to suit various needs. The standard sedan was the most common, but the Tourist, which was a station wagon version, became quite popular because of all the space it offered. The Tourist could carry up to 1,800 liters of luggage, making it perfect for families or anyone who needed extra room for their stuff. There was also a pickup version called the Wartburg 353 Trans, but it wasn't very successful because it couldn't carry much weight or volume. Still, it showed how versatile the Wartburg 353 platform could be. One of the best things about the Wartburg 353 was its front-wheel drive setup. This gave the car better traction and handling compared to many rear-wheel drive cars of the time. The car's aerodynamic design allowed it to reach speeds of up to 80 miles per hour, which was pretty good for its class. The 2-stroke engine, while old-fashioned, was known for its unique sound and visible exhaust smoke. This engine design was reliable and easy to maintain, making the Wartburg 353 a practical choice for many owners. Inside, the Wartburg 353 had a simple and functional interior. In 1969, round instruments replaced the earlier bathroom scale type, giving the car a more modern look. Bucket seats added in 1972 made the car more comfortable, and an optional floor shifter, although not very popular due to some issues, offered a different driving experience. These features, along with the car's sturdy build and easy maintenance, made the Wartburg 353 a practical and reliable vehicle for its time. So, why is the Wartburg 353 so rare and often forgotten today? Well, there are a few reasons. One big factor is the political and economic isolation of East Germany, where the car was made. This isolation limited how much exposure and availability the car had in the global market. As a result, the Wartburg 353 wasn't very well known outside of Eastern Europe, which is where most of them were sold. Another reason is that the technology became outdated. By the time the Berlin Wall came down, the Wartburg 353's two-stroke engine was considered old compared to the more efficient and cleaner four-stroke engines used in cars from the West. This made the Wartburg less appealing to people who could now get more modern and advanced vehicles. Environmental concerns also made it less popular, since the two-stroke engine wasn't as efficient and made more pollution than newer engines. The Wartburg 353 didn't have a lot of success in other countries either, which added to its rarity. While it was exported to some places, like the UK, where it was called the Wartburg Knight, it never became widely popular. The design and performance of the Wartburg 353 couldn't compete with Western cars from the same time, which limited its sales and reach. Plus, as newer and better cars became available after Germany was reunited, the Wartburg 353 quickly lost its appeal, making it even more obscure.